When Jerry Seltzer took over roller derby operations in the late 50s, he had a grand vision. A vision that ultimately led to some of the most successful times, but in just about a year, the demise of Seltzer's derby ended. From San Bernardino, California to your ears, this is the Team Hit Squad podcast. Lloyd Knox is in the building. That's me. It is Thursday, December 20th, 2018. Greetings and salutations to all of you skaters, entrepreneurs, and self-help enthusiasts. This is episode number 13 of the Team Hit Squad podcast. Before we get this entire show started, I want to give a quick shout out to Anabolix. You can check them out at anabolixskate.com. When you use HitSquad TV as your code, you get 10% off. Make sure you check out their entire library of wheels. They are phenomenal. EmpireSkateShop.com. When you use HitSquad TV at EmpireSkateShop.com, you're going to get yourself 10% off. So get yourself a Team Hit Squad shirt, get yourself some Moxie skate boots, anything that you can dream of for your skates or even skateboards. Make sure you go to EmpireSkateShop.com. RollerCon. RollerCon's coming up July 17th all the way to the 21st in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to be a great time. It's like 5-6 days of nonstop roller derby, from the parties to scrimmages to learning. Anything that you want to see roller derby related is all there. Rollercon.com is the July yet. Multiskates.com, for the skater, by the skater. And BigOTournament.com. It's coming at you May 3rd all the way to May 5th. 3 days of the best derby in the world. You have teams like Victoria, Rose City. You have Los Anarchists, Seattle Derby Brats, Vancouver Murder, Denver Ground Control. You have an incredible amount of teams that will be there at Big O. So make sure that you get your tickets, you get your place to stay, and I will see you at Big O. We currently do have Team Hit Squad shirts as well as the Mr. Testosterone Just Spin shirts available for sale, $20. Ships worldwide. I just need your name, your size, your address, and the $20, and you can send them to paypal.me/HitSquadTV, and we'll get yourself fitted in some Team Hit Squad gear ASAP. Hit Squad University East will be happening on Sunday, January 6, 2019. The address of the place is 1779 North Spring Garden Avenue in DeLand, Florida. The coaches that we will have there are Coach Victor Dutch, Speed Bryu, Dizzy Izzy, hometown phenom Olivia Glisson. I'll be there teaching videography and telling you how you can grow your brand as an athlete. And newly added coach number 111 from New Jack City, Jacksonville Roller Derby, Jam Starella. We are throwing a roller derby art show alongside the Alley Gallery in downtown Pomona, California, right by the Glass House. A mural of Hit Squad TV and roller derby will be painted on the wall by the phenomenal Cloak STP. You can find him on Instagram. There will be photographs from Tough Girls on 8 Wheels, Michael Weiss, as well as Tristan King, and other photographers from around the world. The Angry Artist will have some art on display as well. Check out everything. I will have some stories of some of my favorite moments in the sport, as well as growing the sport and the importance of growing the sport through junior participation. The address is 101 South Main Street, and that is in Pomona, California. The new Team Hit Squad album, Blood, Sweat, Years, is an instrumental album that is created by Team Hit Squad themselves. It'll be released in January 2019, so keep an ear out for that, and it'll all be available on all live streaming and downloading sites. So, let's get this entire learning process started. The history of roller derby, part 3. This is pretty much our last part on this entire lesson of the history of roller derby. So, without further ado, let's just get it going. In 1960, KTVU switched to the visually and technically superior videotape format for recording games for broadcast. One of roller derby sponsors, a San Francisco auto dealer, got a Portland, Oregon TV station to broadcast an unedited tape of a match in an attempt to advertise the dealership's new lot in the area. To his surprise, Jerry Seltzer received 300 letters asking for roller derby to come to Portland. So he obliged, and Derby made an appearance before 9,000 fans. Realizing he had stumbled onto a promotional formula, he began syndicating videotapes of games to more independent TV stations and followed up broadcasts with personal appearances of the Derby in each city. In 1961, 40 stations carried Derby. Several years later, UHF TV stations, mostly independent and desperate to compete with older, network-dominated VHF counterparts, snatched up broadcasting rights for their areas. Although TV exposure was an important component of roller derby's revitalization, Seltzer didn't want to repeat the experience of mainstream professional sports organizations that had become dependent on television. He used the medium only for exposure and publicity for live events, not a source of revenue for the salaries. Jerry Seltzer also changed some of the rules. For the first time, skaters were required to wear helmets, and at the behest of KTVU television announcer Walt Harris, he made the game more TV friendly by making jammers' helmets easier to spot with the covers with the stars and stuff like that. Yes, made it much more TV friendly. And even now, I mean, we carried on that tradition to the new roller derby. A more theatrical imitation called Roller Games was started in 1961 in Los Angeles, featuring retired roller derby skaters who chose to not make the move to San Francisco. Owner Bill Griffiths Sr. and Jerry Hill, Roller Games was the only viable rival organization to the original roller derby and actually consisted of several separate leagues, including the U.S. National Roller Derby, NRD, soon renamed the National Roller League, NRL, since roller derby was a trademark and was aggressively protected by the Seltzer organization. So, the NRD, NRL consisted of the Northern Hawks, sometimes billed as the Chicago Hawks, New York Bombers, Texas Outlaws, Detroit Devils, Los Angeles Thunderbirds, nicknamed T-Birds, and the Philadelphia Warriors, sometimes billed the Eastern Warriors. There were also several attempts in markets that failed quickly, with teams such as Baltimore, Washington-based Mid-Atlantic Warcats, the Florida Jets, and the Western Renegades. Roller games also encompass the Canadian National Roller League, CNRL, and Japanese National Roller League, JNRL. Some former roller derby stars found new fame in roller games, and a handful of skaters simply went back and forth between the two organizations. After 1968, however, the roller derby to roller games defections were quite few. Instead, a handful of roller game skaters returned to their roots and began skating for derby again. In 1961 or so, also saw the advent of a short-lived New York City area rival league, which was called the American Skating Derby, promoted by Joe Morehouse and Mike O'Hara. ASD debuted two teams of ex-roller derby skaters, one team representing New York and the other representing Brooklyn, at Long Island Arena in Cummack, New York, around April 1961, with plans to appear throughout the tri-state region. A league split later that year resulted in the formation of another league, the Eastern Skating Derby, ESD, which lasted until mid-1964 and skated only in New York, sometimes at the same venues as the ASD. In 1962, Jerry, in partnership with Uncle Oscar Seltzer, who had founded the Roller Derby Skate Corporation in 1936, created the Dixie Devils, a home team for the southern United States cities of Nashville, Atlanta, Jacksonville, and Orlando. Ronnie Robinson, son of boxer Sugar Ray Robinson, was designated as the team's star player. The Dixie Devils games had to be recorded on kinescope when TV audiences had already grown accustomed to the relatively clear appearance of videotape, and the result was absolutely 100% disastrous. No loyal TV audiences were grown, fan attendance was low, and the venture folded after only a month. A month. That's crazy. So instead of changing and all that, so instead of those people down there didn't change with the technology and the times, the Dixies only lasted and folded after a month, not being able to see the bigger picture down there, quite literally. And it cost Jerry, seriously, a great chance to expand in the South. But they, I guess, eventually obviously changed with the times and whatnot. And big things were still coming for Mr. Jerry himself, so don't feel too bad for him. Seltzer remained fond of the idea of regionalization, however, and envisioned his organization eventually becoming more like other sports leagues, with teams being independently owned and operated, and with the team being associated with regions. For example, the South, Northeast, Mideast, Midwest, Central South, Southwest Plains, and the West, rather than just individual cities themselves like New York, Los Angeles, so on and so forth. The ASD, ESD, and the Dixie Devils, much like Roller Speedway, aren't remembered today by anyone outside of the most dedicated fans and skaters who participated in them. To the media, there was really only one roller derby. From Jerry Seltzer's takeover in the late 1950s, the game reached new heights of popularity with a 120-station television network, although there is no official source to back that up. Were taped games from the Bombers' home, Kezar Pavilion in San Francisco, were shown weekly. Television made fans of thousands of the Bay Bombers packed arenas from coast to coast on cross-country tours, regularly selling out arenas such as Madison Square Garden, the Boston Garden, the Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis, and dozens more. In 1969, television viewership of roller derby peaked with approximately 15 million viewers each week. Two other developments in the 1960s roller derby were profit sharing and annual contracts for skaters. Many skaters previously held day jobs to supplement their income or were only employed as athletes for part of the year. Now as we get into the 70s. Now, although we don't have a source, the indoor record for roller derby was set at 19,507 at Madison Square Garden in 1970. There are sources confirming, though, that the outdoor record was set at the Oakland Coliseum on July 4th, 1970 at 28,314 for a game between the Bay Bombers and the Northeast Braves. The following year, the record was topped yet again with 34,418 for a Bombers game at the Coliseum. Their rival, the Chicago Midwest Pioneers, broke that record with 50,118 fans in 1972 for an interleague game against the National Skating Derby's Los Angeles Thunderbirds at Comiskey Park in Chicago. At this point, the Bay Bombers' home team concept was duplicated, with the New York Chiefs representing the eastern United States and the Pioneer based in Chicago, but really everything west of Pennsylvania. A one-season run in 1971 by the Cincinnati Jolters team in the Midwest, aka Ohio, Kentucky, and other areas, was not financially successful, and the team became a road franchise yet again. The Bombers were briefly a Southwest team moved from the Bay Area, but potential new owners couldn't come to terms with the Seltzers family, and so the Bay Bombers were returned home. And in an unusual move, the Chiefs were a replacement team for the Bombers during the period that the franchise was supposedly based in Texas. In 1973, high overhead and other factors led Jerry Seltzer to elect to shut down the roller derby. In 2005, Ann Cavello mentioned gas shortage during the 1973 oil crisis as a big contributing factor because teams just simply couldn't travel. Some of the IRDL star skaters were recruited to skate for Roller Games International Skating Conference, ISC, which quickly eliminated all derby teams except for the Chiefs to again focus on the Los Angeles T-Birds. However, within 2 years, Roller Games' wrestling circus-like approach doomed the organization. Many roller derby skaters quit and fans just plain deserted the arenas. Cultural historian Paul Fussell, or Fussell, whichever one, my apologies, Paul, perhaps editorializing, attributed the collapse of the sport to the declining economic class of its fan base in its final years. Fans were ultimately unable to support the sponsors that had been keeping the sport on television. From receiving the highest numbers in Jerry's running derby career to 1 year later folding and thus ending the Seltzer-owned roller derby, it was truly a sad send-off. But There were revivals between that period where the doors closed for the Seltzers to eventually where we are at today, which is modern roller derby. So what happened between that time? Well, a lot of things happened during that time. Some of the things that we in modern roller derby get associated with came from this particular era, which was the late 70s all the way to the late 90s. So we're not going to go into we're not going to go into great detail about them because I'm going to save those for different episodes, but we're going to touch on everything. So let's see what happened. The only reasonably successful of these was the International Roller Skating League, operational from April 24th, 1977 to December 12th, 1987. IRSL games were held mostly in Northern California, but a handful of games were skated in the northeastern United States, the Midwest, and Canada. Many skaters from roller derby were in the IRSL, and some of the team names were the same as roller derby. Initially, the league was composed of the San Francisco Bay Bombers, the Midwest Pioneers, the Brooklyn Red Devils, and the Manhattan Chiefs. In 1979, one of the league's owners, former San Francisco television producer David Lipschitz, bought and reconstructed it. He had added two more teams, the Northeastern Braves and the Southern Jolters, later renamed the Southern Stars, and renamed the Chiefs as the New York Dynamite, New York Dynamite, and eventually the Eastern Express. A final team, the Northern Knights, representing Canada, was announced in 1986, but never competed. As before, most of the attention was centered on the Bay Bombers. After skating primarily in Northern California, a Midwest tour was launched in 1984, but flopped due to the competition from baseball and football, as well as weather-related problems. In 1986, a tournament was carried on ESPN, and the IRSL set up sporadic appearances in New York. ESPN dropped the contract in its pursuit of the more lucrative professional sport market, which was the football market. And although talks were underway to broadcast IRSL matchups on the USA Network, the IRSL was unable to survive without television support. Lipschitz shut down the league after its last game at Madison Square Garden on December 12, 1987. Around that time, Lipschitz and skaters were negotiating over how to keep going. Lipschitz wanted to make it more like professional wrestling in an attempt to win over a fickle TV audience, but the players had different ideas. No agreement was reached, and potential sponsors lost interest. In 1985, IRSL matches have been shown twice on ESPN classic sports comedy show Cheap Seats, as ESPN retained the rights to air those matches. American Skating Derby, promoting the games as Roller Jam, formed in 1987 and played a spring season with two teams, the San Francisco Slammers and the Los Angeles Turbos. The name American Skating Derby was the same as the early 1960s New York-based league, but was unrelated. Composed of inactive roller derby and IRSL skaters, the 1987 ASD was formed primarily as a means to keep the game alive, and the two teams, the Slammers being essentially replaced by the Bay City Bombers, skated around Northern California communities for high school charities. For the next decade, with sometimes as few as one game annually, the ASD attempted to keep the tradition going. Now let's talk about roller games. Roller games created in 1989 by two television producers, David Sams and Michael Miller, and roller games owner Bill Griffin Sr., was a U.S. television show that presented a theatrical version of the sport of roller derby for a national audience. It featured a steeply banked track figure 8 track, an alligator pit, and a number of skaters who had been in the Roller Games League, as well as younger participants. The 6 teams were the T-Birds, Violators, Bad Attitude, Rockers, Hot Flash, and the Maniacs. The show only lasted 13 weeks despite garnering over a 5 national rating during its primetime debut, and was in the top 25 of all syndicated shows for the season, even beating the popular American Gladiators. The announcers were Chuck Underwood, David Sams, and Shelley Jameson. Halftime commentary was provided by Wally George. This show alone was actually really interesting, and we'll save this show for another episode, especially this one. And this one over here as well, which is Roller Jam. Between January 1999 and January 2001, Knoxville, Tennessee television impersonarios, my apologies. Sorry, let me shake that off real quick. Whew. My son has been sick for the past 2 days, and I'm on a little bit of lack of sleep, so that's why you kind of hear me pausing and stopping. So my apologies on that. So Ross K. Bagwell Sr. and Stephen Land, under the name Pageboy Entertainment, collaborated with CBS to stage another televised revival known as Roller Jam, or Roller Jam, which is the exact same thing, except there is a space in between roller and jam. Bagwell and Land recruited numerous stars from the roller derby of yesteryear, as well as newer stars from various athletic backgrounds, including nationally ranked speed skaters, to skate in the 16 World Skating League. Jerry Seltzer was named Roller Jam Commissioner. Roller Jam. Roller Jam games were televised out of Roller Jam Arena on the grounds of Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida. Initial teams, each consisting of 7 men and 7 women, were the New York Enforcers, the California Quakes, the Florida Sundogs, the Nevada Hot Dice, the Texas Rustlers, and the Illinois Riot. Original names of the latter 3 were the Las Vegas High Rollers, Texas Twisters, and the Illinois Inferno. These names were changed prior to the start of the first season. Despite the strong funding and 4 seasons of broadcasting on the Nashville network, which was TNN, now known as Spike TV at that time, the venture never became a live attraction. After MTV's takeover of the CBS cable group, fabricated storylines and uncharismatic characters were being featured more than the actual competitive skating. This did not go well with many skaters or even die-hard roller derby fans. 2 notable veterans from roller games, Rockin' Ray Robles and Patsy Delgado, were featured in the second season of Roller Jam. When Roller Jam was canceled, many of the skaters found smaller leagues in which to skate. 40 episodes of Roller Jam have been reversioned for UK television after a successful broadcast in other countries. Airing from 2006, October 2nd, 2006, on Challenge TV, much of the narrative has been removed, with sex and violence toned down for family audience. One major rule difference between previous leagues was that the legalization of inline skates, which the WSL required for younger players in an attempt to push the league to younger players more familiar with the inline game, allowing for more precision skating over the traditional quads, allowing skaters to go faster and allow faster skaters to actually participate. Unfortunately, inlines, unlike quads, afforded little lateral mobility, thus hampering the skater's ability to block effectively at all. Wow, so there you have it. Not as incredibly detailed, but the overview of the history of Derby is now finally complete, which leads us to modern roller derby. Yet another subject for another episode. With the death of the jammer point, the once fast-paced, action-packed roller derby will now be more defensive-minded, but will be a far shout from roller derby and what it originally was. Me, I still love roller derby, even with the gameplay slowing down. We still have a lot to learn. They need to learn how to create and promote stars and leagues and create a true interest worldwide, not solely depending on the teams to promote themselves with little to no money. I see roller derby changing for the better within the next 15 years, fleshing out the old blood to bring in the new and exciting roller derby that is already being played in JRDA. The juniors are in fact the future. Their impact is already being felt on the major stage. Stars like Much Mayhem started off as a junior. Champion and MVP Gallup Bay was a junior. Some of the best in the world like Elisa Prey, Karmic Death, Lily Lightning, and Threatening Thunder, all of Rat City, the latter 2 being of Team Hit Squad as well. I'm not sure if we will ever reach the peaks of roller derby that our ancestors had. Filling Madison Square Garden 5 days straight, be on television on a consistent basis, or even being taken serious as a sport in general. But our best chance for this to ever happen will lie and rely on juniors. The juniors who have been skating and playing the sport since the age of 3. Being able to play in a sport from a young age develops a true love and passion that has no secret agenda to make this sport more political. These kids have grown up in a sport where they love the sport and love being part of it. And the best part of it too is that JRDA is fully encouraging open division, aka co-ed roller derby. Old school roller derby was built on open teams. When everyone saw roller derby on TV, they didn't think that they were all different. They saw everyone the same because what mattered were the jerseys on the name that they were laying their bodies down for pride, for their fans, and for their teammates. 15 years. 15 years is what it'll take to get us to where we need to be. Leo Seltzer attempted to start a junior roller derby league. He saw the future, and the future was and still is reliant on juniors. And it goes past just kids playing it. They grow to love. They pass on and talk about their love to kids around the school, their parents, teachers. They grow up hearing about it. Maybe they see videos. With the growth of the internet and having access to knowledge at a flick of your finger or wrist, derby is in the best time to grow. So to all of you listening at home, in a car on your way to work or practice, listening with your kids, getting your workout bag ready, looking across the room and seeing your little one, let's love roller derby for the sport that it is. It's crazy, chaotic, but it's all ours. And it's time to promote it and share it with the world. I want to thank each and every single individual that has kept up with these past 3 days on the history of roller derby. It's been fascinating. I cannot wait to dive even more into the past history of roller derby with roller jam and roller games and just everything, being able to dissect everything. I'm very excited knowing the fact that there's a lot of new information that I am going to be able to access and be able to bring to you all. So I hope you subscribe to our podcast here at Podbean or on YouTube or on iTunes, because we're going to be all on there soon. Before I let you go, make sure you check out our sponsors at Anabolixskate.com, EmpireSkateShop.com, RollerCon.com, Motaskates.com, BigOTournament.com. It's Thursday. I'm going to go and see my son. He's very sick, like I was telling you all. So I'm going to go hang out with him, have a good time. I will see you all tomorrow. Y'all have a wonderful day.